Well, hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Matt Nichols. This is Rachel Nichols, my wife, my beautiful wife. It's good to have her on these videos because it certainly gives you something better to look at than just looking at me. We're actually asking you to watch this today. If you're brand new, thank you for watching. And we're not trying to change your mind. We're not trying to change your opinion. We're not trying to change your political affiliation, your viewpoint. So please understand that. All we're asking is by watching, we're just asking you to listen. Can we talk a little bit? And if in the process it causes you to go back later and go, you know what, I think that was interesting, I'm going to research that a little bit more. Awesome. That's all we're trying to do, is get all of us to think a little bit and do some more research on our own and figure it out for ourselves, because you're a smart person. We want you to think for yourselves. We're not trying to tell you how to think. We're not like one of those churches or preachers on TV you've seen where they're telling you what you got to do and there's only one way to see it. And we're not trying to do that to you right now. We're trying just simply to say, can we talk? Can we just talk for a minute? And so that's what today's about. And with it being Martin Luther King Day coming up, well, frankly, very soon. I don't want to say tomorrow or yesterday because I don't know when you're watching this. But in 2021, it's hard to believe we're actually here in 2021. 2020 was such a crazy year. And with all of the division, with all of the hate that our country has seen, I'm sure of one thing. I'm sure of you that are watching, you are sick and tired.
David, I'm sick and tired of hearing you shout out from order.
I'm sure you're fed up. I'm quite sure that you feel like there's people who don't have the truth. There's people who don't understand what the truth is. They're disillusioned. And so if you feel like that, I want you to watch today, because I think today is for all of us to sit down and talk together in our separate homes, but to sit down and talk a little bit about what is it that divides us, and what is it that we can do to fix that possibly, or even is it possible that all of us could come together someday in the future? Maybe not right now, but maybe someday. And so this is what today is about. It's about talking about these things. And I think Martin Luther King is an incredible example to look at, a figure from the past that has made tremendous changes in our country, in the world, and continues those changes, even continue today. And so let's just jump in right now. I want to go to something that happened last January in 2020. Believe it or not, there are good things that happened in 2020. An incredible moment happened, and I want to watch that moment with you right now. Let's watch.
A year and a half ago when I met you, you were covered in Nazi swastika tattoos, and now you're being welcomed by Martin Luther King's family here in Atlanta.
To be here today, I'm more excited for Michael in the sense that it's full circle, because he went from hate to being able to accept people for who they are.
Dr. King, what is it like sitting next to a guy who used to be a neo-Nazi with swastika tattoos all over his body? Why are you sitting next to him now?
Well, you know, I grew up in a family where were taught about unconditional love and forgiveness. And so to sit here today, to me, is like just full circle with the fruits of my parents' labor, that people are able to cross these barriers that once existed. It's unbelievable, because this never could have happened in my dad's time at all.
If you would have asked me a year and a half ago, or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, would I have been standing outside? I was on the other side. I was in tears when I was out there. Because I don't know why I was like that. I judged for a couple people's actions. I judged a whole cultures for a couple people's actions.
Somewhere in my mid-20s, I started developing this hate for white people, and had a strong hate, especially for white males. And I had to work through that emotion. I was on a television show with James Robeson, who happens to be an evangelical minister, and I was talking about the loss of my father and how it affected me. And in the middle of the show, he just said, "Can I give you a hug?" Now, in myself, I was like, but my mother taught me better. So I obviously said, of course. And when he hugged me, it was one of the most genuine hugs I had ever received. That in and of itself started something internally in me. It was kind of like in his situation, it takes a new experience to begin the process of change. This is my brother.
Absolutely.
This is my brother. And he may have gotten a little off on the track, but we've been there.
Watching this today together is about realizing one thing, and that is that there is something that's dividing us, and a lot of it's got to do with hate. When hate and anger rises up inside you towards another person and towards a group of people, you find yourself unwilling to approach them. It's like she was just saying in that clip. She did not want to hug him. And it wasn't because of his name or anything he had done personally, right, but it's because he was representing a race of people who had done things that affected her personally, that made her angry. And so she had put them all into one box. And I think that's happened to so many of us. And it doesn't happen right away. It creeps in slowly. No one wakes up one day and says, yeah, I'm hateful towards a whole group of people. It creeps in slowly and it happens. But the bottom line is that it brings hurt, and it hurts mostly the person who's experiencing the hate. If you're hating towards any group right now, you're the one that's hurting the most until you let that go. Let's continue to watch.
This is the King Center.
I can't believe it. Words can't explain.
How you feel?
It makes me feel alive. It makes me feel really good about everything we're doing.
Yeah.
The dream lives and the legacy continues.
I know my grandmother, she was there that day in Washington when he spoke there. To be here today, I'm more excited for Michael in the sense that it's full circle. Because he went from hate to being able to accept people for who they are. On this day, being invited here by the King family is really special. I like to help people. I love to help people. I don't care what race you are, what drug you've used, what trauma you have in your life. I want them to be able to find the hope within themselves, to love themselves, because they have so much to give. If they only knew they have so much to give. They're not a number, they're people.
What do you think as you watch that?
I guess the biggest thing is I just feel so much love in that room. And I just wish there's a lot more people who could experience that.
What do you think it takes to get there?
For people just to let go of offenses, to...
But it's hard to do that, right? I mean, it's hard to do that. When you're feeling so angry, it's hard just to let go. But I think a big part of what they did was they sat down together first. I think that's the first step. I think it's just being willing to sit down with someone who represents the part that you're so frustrated about. Have a coffee together. Maybe have a phone call. If in person's too much, do a phone call and try to understand. And instead of starting the phone call off with telling them all the reasons why you're angry and upset, start the phone call off with asking them, how are you doing and why are you upset? And if we start off by asking the other person first and listen, and we may not agree, we probably won't agree, but just listen and hear their story. I've found that my opinions have changed when I hear someone else's story that I know, and when I get to know that person, it causes me to change, because if it's not affecting someone we love or someone we know, we don't really pay attention and we don't really care. We care most when it affects someone that we love, someone that we know. Well, I think it's important to take a look a little bit today at a clip that happened. This is a broadcast that aired on BBC in 1961 with Martin Luther King. And I think it's incredible, and I just want to watch it for a few moments together if we could. It's just about a 5 to 6 minute clip. Can we watch that together real quick? Let's watch that now.
Dr. King, the most unexpected thing about you to me is that for a long time you've been a national leader of your people. You're one of the most influential figures, I suppose, in the United States, and yet you're only 32 years old. Now, did you have any special training for this kind of leadership when you were a boy?
No, I really didn't. I had no idea that I would be catapulted into a position of leadership in the civil rights struggle in the United States. I went through the discipline of early elementary school education and then high school and college and theological training, but never did I realize that I would be in a situation where I would be a leader in what is now known as the civil rights struggle of the United States.
Well, now, when you were still a small boy, before those decisions came along, were you conscious of color discrimination in your own life?
Yes, I became conscious of color discrimination at a relatively early age. I think the first time was when I was about 6 years old. I had some friends who lived, well, they didn't live in front of us, but their parents had a store, 2 white boys, and they were my inseparable playmates for the early years of my life. And I remember when I was about 6, something started happening. When I went over to play with them, they always made excuses. They could not play, they were busy. On the one hand, my mother taught me that I should feel a sense of somebodyness. On the other hand, I had to go out and face a system which stared me in the face every day saying, you are less than, you are not equal to. So this was a real tension within.
Now, out of your own personal experience, the only example you've given me so far is one family where the mother didn't too much care to have you play with her children. What were you really prevented from doing as a child that a white child might have done?
Well, in my days in Atlanta as a child, there was a pretty strict system of segregation. For instance, I could not use the swimming pool, so that for a long, long time I could not go in swimming until the YMCA was built, a Negro YMCA, and they had a swimming pool there. But certainly a Negro child in Atlanta could not go to any public park. I could not go to the so-called white schools. There were separate schools. And I attended a high school in Atlanta, which was the only high school for Negroes in the city. And this was a real problem because in Atlanta there are more than 200,000 Negroes. In many of the stores downtown, to take another example, I could not go to a lunch counter to buy a hamburger, a cup of coffee, or something like that. I could not attend any of the theaters. Only there were 1 or 2 Negro theaters. They were very small, but they did not get the main pictures. If they got them, they were 2 years late or 3 years late. So that by and large, there was a very strict system of segregation, and there was nothing called racial integration at that time in Atlanta. But the thing I will always remember is that in the midst of her explanation, she always said to me, you must never feel that you are less than anybody else. You must always feel that you are somebody, and you must feel that you are as good as anybody else.
Thoughts?
I just can't imagine growing up in a time like that.
Yeah, in the time we grew up, we didn't experience segregation. went to school, and there was people of all colors coming to the school. Now, I wouldn't say that it's eliminated as far as racial tensions and racial behavior. Unfortunately, I think there's individuals who still conduct in that behavior and look down upon or treat differently or frankly hate even at times. But I've experienced less of the people that I've ever seen or known that hate, but I have experienced more of the people who would have an opinion and look down upon in my lifetime. I've certainly experienced that. And I was taught in my household by my parents that that is a punishable offense. In other words, if I exhibited that kind of behavior, I got in trouble because it wasn't allowed. And it's the same in our household that we've created with our children. It's not allowed. In fact, we try to encourage our kids to have relationships. As a matter of fact, almost seek out people who are different than you on purpose, because I think we become better people when we hang out with people that are different than us and learn more about them, and they learn more about us, and it makes the world a better place. We've got a long way to go as a society still to become truly integrated in a sense where everyone's seen the same. We've got a long way to go, but we've come so far. I think it's important to celebrate what we have accomplished. Look at all the good things that we've accomplished. And I know I don't want anybody, don't turn me off because you're like, oh, okay, whatever, he's not seen it. I do see we've got a long way to go. But one thing I know, we have to celebrate the wins. We have to celebrate the things that we have accomplished together. And I am so happy for that we've come so far. And we've got a ways to go, but we've come so far. Let's keep doing that. Let's keep accomplishing good things. Let's keep moving forward as a society, as a country, as a world. And that happens one person at a time. It doesn't happen because of who we've elected into presidency. It doesn't happen because of who we vote for. It doesn't happen because of what political party we affiliate with. It happens because we decide to look at someone else that we have a prejudice against, and we try to love them. I've seen people who have been victims of racism and victims of being hated. I've seen them do the same thing back to those people, and it's wrong. It doesn't help them, and I've seen those people hurting so much inside because of that. But on the other hand, I've seen people like Dr. Bernice King, who started off, she hated the person that was represented, but in time, she healed herself, and it made her a better person, just like Martin Luther King. The thing I admire most about Martin Luther King was his stand on nonviolence protests. And look what they accomplished because of it. Look, we're still talking about him today because that works. And we know we worship Jesus Christ. And we know Jesus Christ taught the same thing. That's where Dr. Martin Luther King got the idea from, was from Jesus Christ. Judeo-Christianity that teaches love others even when they're different, even when they're enemies. Even when they're enemies, to still love them. And then when you do that, something invisible, incredible happens. You can't see it. You can't make it happen, but it melts the other person's heart. It begins to chip away and break down what they've built up, those walls of hatred, those defensive walls, because we don't know what happened to them. We don't know their story. But never give up on people. Never give up hope on people. Everyone has the ability to change. Any last words?